From our State House studio in Montgomery, welcome to Capitol Journal. I'm Jeff Sanders, filling in this week for Todd Stacy. Thanks for being with us. Topping our news this week, the shocking assassination of Charlie Kirk, a political commentator and founder of the conservative student group Turning Point USA. Kirk was shot and killed while speaking to students at an outdoor event at a college in Utah on Wednesday. On Friday, authorities announced the arrest of a suspect in the case. Police have identified him as 22-year-old Tyler James Robinson of Utah, who was taken into custody Thursday night, just over a day after the attack. Investigators say they recovered a bolt-action rifle near the campus. Authorities are still working to determine a motive. The shock of Kirk's death has stunned the country, many on both sides of the political spectrum condemning all forms of political violence. Meanwhile, members of Alabama's congressional delegation are speaking out. Senator Katie Britt urged Americans to come together in unity in the wake of the attack. Congressman Barry Moore stressed the need to consider security precautions when lawmakers host public events, and Senator Tommy Tuberville called the assassination senseless.
He influenced countless Americans and people across the world, my kids being amongst those groups. Talking with them last night, talking through this with them last night, is just unthinkable that this is happening in the United States of America. And so the time for unity, the time for peace, it is now.
We have to reevaluate open air events. I think that there's so much danger that law enforcement gets anxious when you're in open air areas like that, where there's long range target assessments. And so for us, I think people have to be smart about how we do events.
It's a shame that someone who devoted his life to traveling the country and creating open political dialogue was killed in a senseless act of political violence on a college campus. Charlie's death should alarm every freedom-loving American in this country.
As political leaders across the country react to Kirk's death, several political leaders in Alabama also took to social media to express their shock and sadness. Among them was Alabama Governor Kay Ivey. She wrote, quote, "All of us in Alabama are wrapping the Kirk family in prayer during this unimaginable time of loss. Charlie was a husband, father, and patriot. I hope and pray his mission to have good dialogue continues." Following the assassination of Kirk, several bomb threats were called in to historically black colleges and universities across the country on Thursday. Among them, Alabama State University in Montgomery. Students in Montgomery were ordered to shelter in place as police searched every building on campus. About 2 hours later, ASU received the all clear, but classes were canceled for the rest of the day. The FBI says the calls appear to be hoaxes, but officials stress they are not to be taken lightly. Montgomery Mayor Stephen Reed called the threats deeply disturbing and unacceptable, pledging that the safety of the Hornet community remains the top priority. While the Charlie Kirk assassination dominated headlines across the country this week, Americans also paused to remember another tragic chapter in our nation's history. Thursday marked the 24th anniversary of the September 11th terrorist attacks. On that day in 2001, al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 airplanes. 2 were flown into the World Trade Center towers in New York. 1 struck the Pentagon near Washington, D.C., and the 4th crashed into a Pennsylvania field after passengers fought back. In total, 2,977 people were killed. Thousands more have died since, including first responders who suffered illnesses from the toxic dust and debris in the aftermath. Here in Alabama, Governor Kay Ivey reflected on the attacks during a ceremony at Carver Elementary and Arts Magnet School in Montgomery, part of her back-to-school tour.
We remember this day to honor the heroes and the people we lost. While 9/11 is a solemn reminder of the profound debt of gratitude owed to all who sacrificed their lives for us, it also showcases the powerful rebounding spirit of our nation and America's strength in the face of our darkest hours lies in the hands of us.
As Congress works through the National Defense Authorization Act and negotiations over the next round of federal spending bills, Alabama's congressional delegation is playing a key role. With major defense installations and industries across the state, lawmakers say the stakes are high for both national security and Alabama jobs. Capitol Journal's Alex Engel has more now from Washington.
The bill is passed.
The House approved the National Defense Authorization Act on Wednesday. House Armed Services Chairman Mike Rogers spearheaded the bill to authorize around $893 billion in Pentagon spending.
This is a strong bipartisan bill that delivers for our warfighters and deters our adversaries. It will fundamentally reform the defense acquisition enterprise.
But the bipartisanship eroded in the final vote as only 17 Democrats supported the bill after Republicans added right-wing amendments. Alabama's delegation split on party lines. Congresswoman Terry Sewell says in a statement that reads in part, quote, "I cannot vote for a bill that would rubber stamp this president's dangerous efforts to politicize our armed forces, especially as America faces growing threats around the world," end quote. The Senate has yet to vote on its NDAA. Both chambers will have to agree on the same bill before it becomes law. Lawmakers were also busy this week trying to reach a deal to avert a possible government shutdown at the end of September. A stopgap funding bill looks likely, but 3 full-year spending bills could also be part of that plan. The House Appropriations Committee earlier this week advanced a spending bill that funds the largest non-defense sector.
While several programs are eliminated or they're reduced, the bill does increase support for biodefense, for rural hospitals, and for school choice.
As chairman of the subcommittee that oversees health and education spending, Robert Adderholt led GOP appropriators to cut funding for both departments.
The bill we present to the committee today balances the need for responsible fiscal stewardship while at the same time maintaining key investments in biomedical research, schools, and public health.
But it's uncertain if that House bill will become law, as it would also need to pass the Senate, which is pushing for fewer spending cuts. The new fiscal year starts October 1st. Reporting on Capitol Hill, Alex Engel, Capitol Journal.
Last week, we looked at healthcare concerns in Alabama's rural communities, focusing on communities that have lost their hospitals. But those facilities are not the only concern when it comes to maintaining healthcare in the regions. Some residents say they remain hopeful, though, about the progress being made. Our Randy Scott has more.
We have miles to go before we can even find modern health care in this area.
Thomas Jackson is worried about health care access in his hometown of Thomasville. Jackson says those worries were amplified by the closing of their recently built hospital.
I'm standing here at a facility that was built some 3 years ago, a state-of-the-art facility, digital hospital. It has a ward for OBGYN, surgery, operating rooms.
Jackson is also Representative Thomas Jackson of the Alabama House of Representatives. He says shortages of healthcare services hit close to home.
This is a $46 million facility here. We need this. Between where you came from, Montgomery, and to Mobile, the closest place we can get to is Selma, and that's an hour and 15 to 20 minutes away. And if you want to have a baby, you got to go farther north, like Montgomery or Tuscaloosa.
Jackson says budget changes passed down from Washington, D.C. have adversely affected operations of many business, health, and social programs.
That the Congress passed. It's not helping poor people. It's not helping the working class. I will use that term because most of the people that work got 2 and 3 jobs just try to maintain.
The closing of hospitals around the state of Alabama is causing some grief in certain communities. Here in Thomasville, they have to deal with a closed hospital, but other problems start to also appear. But luckily for them, they found solutions to those problems. Other related items, such as ambulance services, are also being closely watched.
45 minutes to hours, if you call 911, you're in trouble.
Recently, this problem was solved thanks to the addition of a new local ambulance service.
And so if I got to wait 40 minutes for you to get there, I'm DOA in any point. So that's why we need quick, fast. And that's why I'm happy about the service that is in town. It helps. It doesn't solve the problem, but it helps prolong life a little so we can get to the next place.
An added bonus, there's a helipad for helicopters ready to go when the need rises. In Thomasville, Randy Scott, Capital Journal.
Governor Kay Ivey joined education leaders in Montgomery this week for the Cognia Alabama Impact Conference, a gathering focused on student achievement, innovation, and school improvement. The governor used the occasion to highlight progress being made preparing Alabama students for jobs in the future.
I'm pleased to note that the 6-year record of the Council to improve STEM-related education statewide is already paying dividends. Today, more students are graduating with the skills to successfully compete for jobs in cutting-edge fields like aerospace, biochemistry, cybersecurity, advanced manufacturing, healthcare, and beyond. More importantly, Alabama students are becoming Alabama workers as the best high-tech jobs in the country are moving right here to the Yellowhammer State. Last week, Alabama made international news as President Trump announced Huntsville would be the permanent home to the U.S. Space Command headquarters. All Alabamians should be proud of this confirmation that there is no better place to lead America into the future than sweet home Alabama.
Coming up next on Capital Journal, I sit down with Alabama Secretary of Workforce Greg Reed to talk about the changes, challenges, and successes as he leads what was once the Department of Labor. September is also National Preparedness Month. I'll go in depth with Alabama EMA Director Jeff Smitherman. And political analyst Steve Flowers is here with the latest on the fallout from the Charlie Kirk assassination, plus a look at who's hot and who's not in key political races across the state. Stay with us.
You can watch past episodes of Capital Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the online video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capital Journal and link to past episodes on Capital Journal's Facebook page.
And welcome back to Capital Journal. I'm joined now by Secretary of Workforce in Alabama, Greg Reed. Mr. Reed, appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Jeff. Good to be with you.
Good to be with you. You're the first Secretary of Workforce in the former Department of Labor. You've been on the job since February. Let's talk about it. 8 months now, kind of not quite a year, but a lot happening in those months. What are you proudest of the most?
Well, I'm excited about the opportunity moving forward. I appreciate Governor Ivey giving me this opportunity. Served in the legislature for 14 years, and workforce has been a theme and a topic that I've been focused on for a long time. It's the biggest business issue, the biggest challenge that we have in Alabama as far as growing our economy. So we're at the task. We've been focused on an organizational structure. We've been focused on trying to manage topics like branding and marketing programs that we're moving forward with. We've been managing putting together the agency. We've got folks that are in multiple locations in Montgomery that are coming together. We actually got a move going on to where we're moving 450 employees to a new location. We've got a lot of issues that have been ours to manage in bringing agencies together. So those agencies that are funded by different budgets and federal resources and those kinds of things, bringing all that together as the new Alabama Department of Workforce. So the agency has been engaged in doing what's necessary to pull everything together. So we've been hard at the task, much to accomplish moving forward, but I'm very pleased with what we've done thus far.
a lot of people would think, oh, you're just changing the name. It sounds good. It's kind of a new political thing. But there is a lot more, as you mentioned, structural and strategic initiatives taking place to kind of reshape not just the name, but the kind of how this moves forward. You mentioned that a little. Let's talk about the work participation rate in the state. 57.9%, I believe, somewhere in that ballpark. It has ticked up.
Correct.
And even if it's just a few percentile points, that can mean big things for the state's economy.
Well, it can. If you look at workforce participation, which is a federal number that determines how many people are in the job market, folks that are working or looking for work, they want to participate in the job process. So in looking at the increase of that, Alabama showing that has increased 0.4%, adds thousands of trained workers into the workforce. So we're excited about the move. Workforce participation also, though, when you narrow down the evaluation, you get some concerns in some of the numbers. For instance, workforce participation of Alabamians from age 20 to 29. That number is about 71%. So, wow, we've got 29% of people in Alabama that are age 20 to 29 that do not work. We don't have a record of them working, paying taxes, being engaged in the work process. So, trying to focus on those folks. How do we attract them to come into the workforce? Do they need additional training? What are the things necessary? Are there different obstacles to them working? Is it childcare? Is it housing? What are the challenges to cause people to not be in the workforce? And the more we eliminate those challenges, the more we recruit folks in to get the training they need to fill the jobs that are available, then our participation rate increases.
And that obviously, as we've talked before, the 2-year college system, the 4-year college system, not everyone may need a 4-year degree. It could be just that little bit of training to get them over the ledge, as you say, to kind of move forward into the employment process.
I've been in meetings just in the last few weeks. We've talked about everything from a 4-week training program in a specific certificate all the way to how to focus on nurse educators, which is one of the biggest deficits that we have in education. Teaching nurses. These are advanced practice nurses that are having to come back, maybe make a lower salary to be a nurse educator. Also looking at folks that are producing outcomes that are important for skilled trades. How are we training folks in career tech instruction in high school? What are some of the things that we're doing there to try and drive forward carpenters, welders, machinists, plumbers? All of these are skills that are in great demand in our community. And folks that have those skill sets, man, they can make a lot of money with those resources.
And I talked to the 2-year college system folks, and they talk about getting folks through this training, whether it's the Skills for Success program that the 2-year college system runs, and maybe they get that training to be, as you mentioned, a forklift operator or a welder or whatever, but then they do have a little bit of college experience, and maybe down the road they want to come back, continue that education, create their own business, get a business degree, whatever that may be, but it's those building blocks that you're thinking not just for 2025, but for 2035.
Well, it's important. I mean, people need to think about what is going to be my career. Now, that career may change and moderate, but the skill sets, the credentialing, the education, the degrees that you secure are going to be with you as you move forward and grow your career. So we want to look at how do we improve that opportunity for Alabamians? How do we work with in a collaboration, which is some of the effort that I've been involved with, from K-12 instruction to the 2 years, the 4 years? How do we work together and collaborate with industry and business to be able to make sure that those that want to participate in the workforce, we want more of them tomorrow than there are today, but that they have the right training that allows them to fill the jobs of the 21st century? What are things coming in the future? Technology is changing. Innovation is upon us. Alabama's a leader in that area, and we need to be focused on making sure that the work that is required is able to be provided by those that are in our state.
You mentioned innovation in the state. Recently announced that Space Command will be relocating to Alabama, to Huntsville. The president made that announcement to the Huntsville area. That's a big deal for the state. And when it comes to the numbers, on a conservative side, I think some of the government estimates say about 1,400 direct jobs, possibly a few thousand more indirect jobs. Talk about the importance of that, not just for Huntsville, but for the entire state.
Well, I think when you look at the growth of Space Command, You know, Space Command, my goodness, that was something on the cartoons on Saturday mornings when I was a child. Now, this is the defense of our nation from space. The president has pushed and pulled on that topic to be able to locate it in Alabama, but what better place for it to be than Alabama? When you think about innovation, we've had a focus, Governor Ivey had a focus through Innovate Alabama over the last 5 years to help prepare Alabama's economy for the knowledge-based economy that is coming. How do we support entrepreneurs? How do we attract high-tech industries? How do we promote STEM training with engineers and scientists and all that? You know, these folks maybe in California or Colorado or New York, they think they've got something on us in Alabama. They don't. When we think about innovation, Alabama's the 4th largest producer of airliners in the world. Look at the defense industry, Space Command coming, the FBI locating in Huntsville, Alabama, the defense industry and aerospace across the state. We're the 3rd largest producer of automobiles in America and the 5th largest producer of ships in the world. This is Alabama, our home sweet home. Innovation is at the forefront for our state, and Space Command is just one more example of the way Alabama is really getting the job done in regards to high-tech opportunities for the benefit of our citizens.
You mentioned those high-tech opportunities. You mentioned innovation. When you speak to your colleagues in other states who lead up, whether it's the labor or workforce departments in those states, what are they most surprised by when they learn something about Alabama that maybe through just not knowing or just what we think we know surprised them?
Well, 2 things. Number one, I've heard from some in other states, political folks in other states, that have looked at some of the public-private partnerships, the Growth Alliance, Innovate Alabama, things that we've done in Alabama that's a huge collaboration between government and industry and business. And they ask the question, how do you get your political people and your business people together to even be willing to share authority and trying to make decisions that are best for your economy? And that's something that Alabama's proud of. Kay Ivey's led that effort. The legislature's done a good job there. The other thing is looking at the innovation for Alabama. When I'm able to say to other leaders across the nation, we build more ships in Alabama. We are the 3rd largest producer of automobiles in the United States. When we think about the volume that has been an increase in our port, in Alabama's port in Mobile, and look at that over a 5-year window and its impact on the Southeast and the movement of cargo and coal and all kinds of things, there are elements about what goes on in Alabama. We may be known for college football or college basketball, but the economic engine that is burning and running and growing in Alabama is huge, and our people are the beneficiaries.
In our remaining moments here, you mentioned earlier 14 years in the legislature. You were a businessman before that, still are in many ways. You were at the top of leadership in the Senate. You led the Senate. Now you're leading the Department of Workforce. Talk about kind of that skill set. It's 14 years. You learn a lot about how government works. You're on the political side of it. You have Governor Ivey will be in office another year or so. We'll have a new governor. How do you take those skills, translate them into what you're doing now, and then what do you hope to accomplish as we move into another election cycle and another governor, and who knows what will happen? But talk about that.
Well, just the experience that I had in business lent itself to success politically just because I dealt with people. Everything's a negotiation. Business is a negotiation. You're the art of the deal. That's the same way in politics. A lot of the things that I learned in business now are helping me in this new role, 8 months into being the secretary of the Alabama Department of Workforce. I have 850 employees. So the personnel knowledge that I gleaned as a businessman has become something that I've utilized as I've managed dealing with employees. And oh, by the way, these are employees that are all being pulled together from different places into one new agency. So there's a lot of change, there's a lot of motion there. It's been neat for me to continue to grow the relationships that I have with my colleagues in the Alabama legislature and in government in general. And Kay Ivey has been my very good friend for a long time, way back when I was with the Republican Party as the vice chair and she was the state treasurer. We've known each other for many, many years. But looking at all those experiences and how they lay out, public service for me has been a goal, it's been an opportunity, it's been a blessing, really. That I've met all these fine folks, I've been able to do these things that matter, that are promoting our state, and now I've been given a great opportunity to pull something together that's never been done before and be able to continue to be a public servant, helping those that I'm sworn to serve in this new agency. If people are given a job, if they get a career, what's more important for them in their life as they continue to grow and provide for their families and be able to enjoy the American dream as a result of working and having the things that they want in their life being produced as a reality? And the fact that our agency could be a little part of trying to help people do that, that's public service, and it's something that's a great benefit and privilege for me.
Helping fulfill a sense of purpose
Absolutely.
as well. Greg Reed, we appreciate you so much for joining us today. I know we got a lot of stuff coming up in the next few months.
Sounds good, Jeff. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And we'll be right back with more Capitol Journal.
You're watching Alabama Public Television, celebrating 70 years of service to Alabama.
And welcome back. September is National Preparedness Month, and we are joined on today's program by the Alabama EMA Director, Jeff Smitherman. Mr. Smitherman, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Let's talk about the role of Alabama EMA. You know, it sounds pretty self-explanatory, the Emergency Management Agency, but when you break it down, kind of what is the overall mission of you and your team?
So we have a long mission statement, but it really boils down to doing our level of work for the citizens of the state of Alabama to integrate, because the locals are where most of the work happens, and our role is to facilitate federal resources to come down, and we coordinate at the local level with the locals at the local level to ensure that they get the resources they need at the right time at the right place to help the residents and citizens in their area.
If there is a severe weather event or something along those lines, let's say there is a tornado that hits a community, you mentioned it really does start with your friends and your neighbors, and it kind of goes from there.
It does, and you know, a high percentage, I don't remember the exact amount, but it's over 70% of whoever comes in and is the first person, say you're in your home and it collapses due to a high wind event, over 70% of the time, it's your neighbor that's going to be the first one there helping you get out from that rubble and providing that initial first aid. So we really focus on you know, that integration for helping yourself and also helping your neighbor, get to know your neighbor, talk with them, let them know what your plan is, if you're going to be away, if you're going to be home, just so that they know and can come and help and assist, and vice versa if you need to go help them.
Then from there, how does the state EMA kind of really get involved to really make sure that local officials have what they need?
So the first thing we start with is the education and preparedness. We really push, and we really get back to our roots. You know, we came from the world of civil defense, and you know, I think that profession did really well back, if you go back into the 60s, early 70s of the different messaging that we did, and I'd love to see us as a profession get back to how we communicate. Let's go back to these 8 to 12-year-old kids in school, and I know those desks in my school were some of the best built desks in the world, because we were told if it was a tornado or a bomb, we're going to get under the desk. But the key thing is there was a message, the children heard the message, they could take that message, go back home and tell their parents, their families, their friends, their cousins, and that's how we spread the word. We really need to get back to that individual effort, regardless of how that message goes out, whether whatever type of media they use, if it's social media, so be it. But you know, to find that trusted source, get the education, get the notification, and really drill down at the individual level to be prepared.
I'm like you. I remember as a second or third grader, you know, with those drills, getting under the desk, whether it was a bomb at the time. And for those of you who just Google it, you'll know what we're talking about back in the 80s. But I remember going home and saying, hey, we talked about this today. Do we have a plan for our home? Where would we go in our home if a tornado or some kind of severe weather event was to take place? And that still sticks with me all these years later.
And that's what we do. We really push because the children are the best, because they absorb the information so well, and they are not inhibited of going home and asking the parents the questions. And it really focuses them on what is your risk, know your risk, develop a plan, have that plan, make sure your neighbors and your extended family away from your exact residence know your plan, so that you can reintegrate afterwards. You can get back in touch. You can they know where you're going to be. You can communicate. Because sometimes it's tough right after an incident to communicate because the cell towers are down or overloaded, and communication is tough. So if they know your plan, it really helps you get reunified afterwards.
Earlier this year, I was there for the event. Your EMA office is located in Clanton, kind of the state command center, a multi-million-dollar renovation to really kind of update technology. Tell us more about that and how that money that was spent will benefit Alabamians.
Yeah, so we're really proud of that facility now, and it had gone through different edits or throughout the year, but throughout the years, but it never was really shut down for a period of time to really be able to go in and do a deep dive fix on a lot of the stuff.
The facility itself was about 35 years old.
That's right, but the agency's mission had grown from when it was built, which meant the staffing had grown. We had put one addition in, but it really, the technology couldn't keep up with the building. Of course, was built before computers really were so integral, and we took the opportunity during the renovation to really enhance our technology and the stuff we're able to do, because we rely so heavily on information, both coming in and going out, and we're able to communicate and collaborate amongst our state partners, other state, federal, and at the local level. That communication that we have now is just awesome. We go 3 and 4 deep on the ability to have that connectivity.
Communication is important. Technology always changing. When I and you and I probably were a kid, it was either the television came on, you had the radio, or in some communities you had those tornado sirens. Talk about how that has evolved and how you keep pushing that technology to make sure that Alabamians have the proper warning to make sure they can get to their safe space or know what's coming.
Yeah, and we do. We pushed, it's not so much just have a piece of technology, it's have multiple, have a redundancy, because what works at one time and place may not be what works at another time and place. When you're out at a sports facility, you may rely on one type of notification, but when you're at home at night, and you may have your TV, you may have your cell phone. What happens when you lose power? How are you getting that notification? Do you have a redundant method and a method for when the power goes out? Because quite often, the first storm that comes through may knock out the power, and then the second comes through is the one that may have devastating impact on your area, and you may not get that notification if you don't have that redundancy.
Because we hear so much about sirens, and they're mainly for folks who are outside. If you're inside your home, your TV's blaring, you may not hear that siren, but pretty much all of us have a cell phone these days.
Yeah, and that's what's important, is to have a redundancy. So it's okay to have outdoor sirens. It's okay to have cell phone. But have a weather radio. Have another trusted source that whether it be your normal radio station, whether it be your TV station that you're monitoring, so that you have multiple ways of receiving that alert warning, and know your area, know the areas that the storm's coming from, so that you can see, hey, if like where I live, I'm an hour from Montgomery, and if Montgomery's getting hit, then I know, in a little bit I'm going to be getting hit. I need to really make sure I'm paying extra attention.
Early this year, you traveled to the nation's capital, testified before Congress. What was your message to lawmakers and how that can help Alabamians here?
So I feel strongly that you'll hear a mantra coming out of the D.C. right now that talks locally executed, state managed, and federally supported. And that's been around for a while. That really is the model. And we talk about all disasters starting in at the local level. However, that's not the way the system has been performing over years. And I think the closer we are to the incident, the more efficient and effective they can be. So instead of resources, and that's not the case for everything, but instead of the resources being decided at the federal level, push that resource down to the state and local, and we'll put it to better use. And that was really the central theme of what I had to say, because I've witnessed where when the federal government, because it's just so big and it brings so much of a logistic administrative tail in with it, it costs a whole lot more, that we could take that same amount of money or less and do the same job.
Every state has different needs. If you're in California, that's wildfires, that's earthquakes. If you're somewhere in, say, the Dakotas, it could be blizzards. Here, it's tornadoes, it's hurricanes, and I would imagine that local kind of micro scale knowledge of that is so important. What you do here wouldn't necessarily work in some other state.
That's right, and messaging with the communities is different here. The challenges in the communities are different, and we know those communities, and we know. And instead of trying to do a large one-size model for everything from the federal side, we can do it better at the local level. And I think at the state level, what we're looking at is a multitude of small communities, small disasters, so we can manage that. So we're there to help the locals do what they need to do, and sometimes they need resources, sometimes it's resources, sometimes it's just a little guidance, a little education. So we try to be there for that. And that was the central theme of what I testified for, was it's really, if you'll push those resources. Normally in resources we're talking money, sometimes we're talking capability. Just give me some of the tools, fund me to have the tools, because sometimes it makes sense to regionalize some of those resources and not ask every state to build everything. Sometimes they can share. We have a system to share. It's called the Emergency Management Assistance Compact, EMAC, and so the state, we do a lot with other states. We sent stuff to North Carolina, Georgia, Florida during the last hurricane season. We sent resources to Texas following the hill country flooding. So that system works. What I would say is the federal government, if you really want to look at federalism, help us, the states, get better at that and not have a federal solution to everything.
Speaking of the state, we are in hurricane season. We just commemorated the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina. What are you all kind of like keeping your eye on as we kind of enter this particular version of severe weather season? What's your message to Alabamians?
So our onboard meteorologist this morning sends me a message. We jokingly call him the Prince of Darkness or the Doctor of Doom. So, because he always only gives us the bad news. He says, hey, by the way, waves coming off the coast of Africa, and we're looking at something develop in the Caribbean in the next few days. I'm like, I get those regularly. Sometimes they amount to nothing, but I appreciate that a week, 2 weeks of notification or head start, because we can really posture. So it's a constant effort, and it's not all just hurricanes. I'm thankful they do give us a notice. Some of the hardest events for us to deal with is the winter weather events, because we just live in a region that the science just isn't good enough to tell us exactly. If you live in North Dakota, it's going to be cold.
It's going to snow. My wife's family's from South Dakota.
Yeah.
I've been there in January. It's not a pleasant place to be.
And it's cold, and it's going to come in the form of snow. In our region, it may start out as rain, mixed rain, sleet, and then it freezes. And then there's snow. We don't know what we're going to get. We don't know where that line's going to be. So it's very difficult to prepare. But we learn from each incident and get better each time.
And lastly here, what would be your message to the average Alabamian? What's like a low-cost, just easy thing that every family should have in place?
The biggest thing, have a plan. And there's some things that are really quite simple as building that plan, and some you may not think about. So I'd say go to ready.gov and look around in there, and you find some sample plans and some sample things. But some of it's really simple, and you own it. It's like, hey, instead of your flip-flops or Crocs, you might need some hard-sole shoes. Mm-hmm. Make sure you got some of those, just so that you can grab them as you exit, because when you exit from an area that's got a lot of damage, there's nails and sharp objects and everything that you're going to be walking through. So it's small things like that. It's stuff you already have. Just assemble it into a package, into a
Yeah, I was about to say, our family, we have a box, and it has battery-powered lanterns in there. It has bicycle helmets in there. It's just those, you never know what you're going to need.
It's funny. I probably ought to share this. I am going to share this. I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I do a little skit with her. She doesn't know that I'm training her when we're actually doing the skit, but I'm going to get Greg to to film it, but I will say, hey, what do we do when a storm's coming? And she'll go, that radio goes off, it's so loud. I said, well, then what do we do? She goes, we grab up our medicine, our lights and flashlights and batteries and the pets, and we go down into our safe room. And I said, then what? And so she just, so it's really my way of rehearsing the plan for her. But we have a plan. We rehearse the plan. She knows the plan. And, we tell the local fire department, here's where our safe room is. So if our house is hit, you'll know where we're at and you can check on us.
It's great advice, and obviously I know everyone at EMA is working hard every day to make sure that the residents of the state stay safe. Jeff Smitherman, I really appreciate your time today.
Well, thank you for letting me be here.
And hopefully not too many severe weather events coming up in the near future.
I'm hoping not.
All right, thank you so much. And we'll be right back with more Capitol Journal.
Since 1997, Alabama Public Television has provided programs, services, and resources to child care professionals, teachers, and parents. Visit aptv.org/education to learn more.
And welcome back to Capitol Journal. I'm proud to be joined now by our political analyst, Steve Flowers. Steve, as always, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
Steve, been doing this quite a while now. It's been a crazy week in politics. And let's start off with this Charlie Kirk shooting that took place, this assassination. It just seems to me that assassinations have been around. Presidents, we go back to McKinley and to Abraham Lincoln, we go back to the 60s and everything that's happened. But this political world we live in now, you served in the legislature, you've been around politics, and maybe it's different here in Alabama, but it just seems that and we've mentioned this before, we can't live in a world where we can just disagree with each other and still be friends.
You know, this whole thing about the shootings around the country are not just in political realms, the school stuff and all that. There's more of those than there are political. But to the political point, the only thing I can talk about from political reality, what I know is that the acrimony and partisanship has become very pronounced in the last 2 or 3 decades. It's just like even the news channels. I mean, the Fox is a Republican channel, and CNN and MSNBC the Democratic channel, and they've placated those markets. Mm-hmm. But furthermore, deeper than that, Jeff, is the social media aspect. That's how these crazy people who shoot people and everything like that, they get on social media and like dark web type things, and that's what I think is instigating a lot of this.
Live in their own echo chamber.
I think so. Yeah. I think that, I don't know very little about social media, but I know that is a direct correlation. So I think maybe you have more of that now. I still don't know the reason for the schools shooting little school children at church and everything like that. You know, that's still beyond my comprehension. But the political thing I can understand, that you get people over there and they're so involved and so devoted to their political cause philosophically and been driven by social media and the right or left wing media. So it's a sad thing about that young man, 31 years old with 2 children, yeah, and a young wife, everything. That's what's tragic about it.
Absolutely. You talk about the political acrimony we have, but there is budget battles looming in Washington. We live in a world of executive orders from the White House. The president, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, seem to govern that way. Congress seems to have abdicated a lot of their role in recent years, not just now, but this is something that's been happening for a while. Let's talk about this budget battle, and especially how Alabama's Katie Britt, Tommy Tuberville are going to play a role in that.
Well, you're right about the executive order thing. I don't know if I've ever seen a president exert the kind of parameters with executive orders that Trump has. Trump, of course, has no boundaries, so he's going to do what he wants to do. But he's usurped this vacuum, and the Congress has given it to him in past decades. Congress control their own power, and in this regard, they've acquiesced to him a little bit, but.
Because compromise is such a bad word. It seems like if the Democrats compromise Republicans, they're going to get challenged in their primaries. If a Republican compromises with a Democrat, they're going to get challenged from the far right of their party. Is that fair to say that they're just too scared to do what needs to be done sometimes?
Very accurate assessment. That is so partisan up there now that they are in one wing or the other. You know, they don't compromise.
Tommy Tuberville obviously only going to be in the Senate just over a year. He is running for governor, and no challengers on the other Republican side to face him. Not much going on in that department. Obviously a very Republican state. So if you were a betting man, obviously you would think Tuberville will be the next governor. What is that race? Could we see any shakeup in that race? Could anything crazy happen in that race that would change the dynamic?
It has to be something tragic, dramatic. One of them dies or something like that. I mean, that's all that's going to stop him, I think. And but Tuberville is 71 years old, so something could happen to his health. I don't know, but I think he's got a smooth sailing. And actually, Jeff, in time parameters, it's not much time till the election.
Mm-hmm.
Our election is May 19th next 2026. Which our Republican primary is our election, the statewide offices, so he's got clear sailing to May 19th next year.
We've had Kay Ivey, who will be 10 years in office through the end of her term. How could we see governing in this state change from what Kay Ivey has done to the leadership style you think of Tommy Tuberville? And I'm asking you to look into a crystal ball, and I know that's hard to do. But what are lawmakers here, maybe in Montgomery, preparing for?
Well, they're excited about this new state house over there.
Yes, they are. We're all excited about the new state house.
Y'all are excited about that too. It's coming along real well. It looks great over there. I think Kay came with a completely different way of coming to governor, the more traditional way. She came from being a lobbyist for higher education when I was in legislature, to being state treasurer for 2 terms, to lieutenant governor 2 terms, to ascending to governor. So Kay understood and knows state politics, and she knows how to compromise, how to work things. Now that doesn't mean she's not very decisive and very successful in her endeavors as governor. She's been a real good governor, I think, an excellent governor. But she came with those, so you knew that she would be a steady ship governor. You don't know about Tuberville. You know, he came from an unorthodox background from being governor. But I do perceive this, that Tuberville is coming from a good place in that he is someone whose living's made, and he doesn't have to do it for the money, and he's doing it for the right reason. Most people would go live at their beach place in the mid-70s. He wants to be governor. It's a very tough job. It's tougher than he thinks it is. A lot of appointments, a lot of things like that. But I think he has this management ability, having been a head football coach. He is a chief executive officer.
So it fits him more, you think, in the role of a senator?
A lot more, and that's what he always wanted to do anyway. He wanted to run for governor when he ran for the Senate, but knew he couldn't beat Kay Ivey. So he wanted to be governor, and I think what I'm trying to say, he knows how to pick people around him and let them be the assistant coaches. Gotcha. I think he's not a micromanager. So I think he'll be a good governor. But the real ace in the hole, Jeff, is he's good friends with Nathaniel Ledbetter, who is going to be is already a very powerful Speaker of the House, and he's got real good legislative coaching. They're good friends.
Yeah.
I mean,
so working in tandem.
I think he's going to have
with Garland Gudger in the Senate as well.
He's going to have a real close relationship with the Senate and the House.
Let's break down some other races. We talked about governor. Let's talk to the lieutenant governor's race. A little more competitive there. You have Wes Allen, the current Secretary of State, running. You have Rick Pate, the current Secretary of Agriculture. I've kind of handicapped that race as we're about, about 9 months out now.
There are about 5 really good races. The governor's race will not be a good race, but lieutenant governor will probably be the closest race. I couldn't call that one right now. You got 2 good horses in there, Wes Allen and Rick Pate, and it depends on which one of them can raise the most money. I don't think they're going to be as successful raising money as some other races, because that job constitutionally really has very little power.
Yes.
And now, in my day,
you have the power of the bullhorn, as they say.
That's about it.
Which Ainsworth has used very well in his time.
Ainsworth usurped power that the Senate gave him because they perceived he was going to be governor one day, and so he had that perception. So they gave Ainsworth that power, but I don't see Pate or Wes Allen having that kind of power as lieutenant governor, and therefore the powers that be that give money in Montgomery are going to give paltry to that race. But I think that it's going to be a real good race. It's too close to call.
What about the Attorney General's race? That's gotten a little more heated in recent weeks.
It has. Jay Mitchell enters as the favorite, of course, having run 2 successful statewide races for the Supreme Court, and I was surprised. First of all, he left the state Supreme Court to be Attorney General, but he says it's more active. He wants to be more active, but the two female candidates in that race, Catherine Robinson, who is Assistant Attorney General, has raised a significant amount of money out of state from this right-wing dark money group, and that makes her a viable candidate. That she'll be able to spend some money to compete with Mitchell in that race. Probably the best qualified candidate in the race is Pamela Casey, who's a DA in Blount County, and she's working hard, so she may surprise you. She just doesn't have any money. And so it's going to be a good race.
Money is important.
Money is the mother's milk of politics. I mean, you get on TV and you show that name ID, and that's what wins.
You can look at the Birmingham mayor's race. Randall Woodford, how many people did he face? He had a lot of money. Didn't even go to a runoff. And that's a highly Democratic city, but I think it goes to show that Republican politics, Democratic politics, money is extremely important.
Very much so.
Let's talk about, let's go back. I want to go, let's shift back to Washington a little bit here. Had a report earlier on Alex Engel reporting and through AL Daily News as well about earmarks for Alabama's lawmakers. At the end of the day, you want to do a lot for your state, and then we'll get into Space Command in a second. And it really showed that Senator Britt kind of led the pack as far as getting money allocated for projects and stuff happening here in the state of Alabama. She really has seemingly led the charge among the political delegation for the state.
Katie Britt is a superstar. We're so fortunate to have a 43-year-old superstar. She is on a fast track. Jeff, she initially, in her just finishing up her third year in the Senate, she got on the four most prestigious committees: Rules, Banking, Judiciary, and Appropriations. Now, the most important is Appropriations. Mm-hmm. That's where Senator Shelby was. That's what Senator Shelby chaired. You have senators who spend 20 years up there and never get on one of those four committees. It's unheard of for a freshman to get on one of those committees. She got on all four of them. So she's the most powerful freshman senator in Washington, and she's on track to be one of our greatest U.S. senators, as long as they don't pluck her out of the Senate and make her run for vice president or something like that. She ought to just stay in the Senate. But she is Alabama's savior for the future in Washington, because a U.S. Senate seat is very valuable. But where she's bringing home the bacon and following her mentor, Richard Shelby, is through her committee assignment on appropriations. That's where the money is spent and appropriated. And so her seat on appropriations is invaluable, and she knows how to work the levers already. She grew up under Shelby as a chief of staff, and she's just a superstar. She's bringing home a lot of bacon.
And quickly, I skipped this earlier, so I'm going to bounce back to Space Command in a second. But let's talk about that Senate race to replace Tuberville.
Well, we have in the last few decades had an ironic twist in our Senate delegation of two tandem members. You're too young to remember this, but growing up, we had a tandem of Lister Hill and John Sparkman, who were just giants in Washington.
I know who they were, though. So
they were giants. As a matter of fact, if you get down to it, John Sparkman was the father of the Redstone Arsenal, and so out of Huntsville, and then Lister Hill was the father of UAB medical care. He was specialist in medical care, Hill-Burton Hospital. Anyway, Senator Shelby was our third greatest senator in history, and he probably has surpassed them during his last 6 years in the Senate. But Katie Britt's in that same position to do that.
Is this still Marshall's race to win right now?
I would disagree with that because of this. There's a clandestine dark money Republican right-wing group in Washington,
which you talked about earlier.
It's called the Club for Growth, and they Barry Moore has been very close to them. They like real right-wing congressmen. He's in what's called the Freedom Caucus. He and Mo Brooks were in that caucus. And they literally want to find a Fox News camera to get in front of rather than bring home any bacon to Alabama. So we're going to have one, if Moore wins, he'll be ineffective. But I think the Club for Growth is going to buy that seat for him.
We'll see how that pans out. I do want to talk about Space Command. We have just a minute or two left here. A big deal for Alabama. Obviously, a lot of politics involved in that. Originally supposed to come. The Biden administration put it back in Colorado. Trump now says it's coming, or I don't think that will change, to Huntsville. A big win for the state.
Back to my earlier comments about Senator Richard Shelby, people cannot comprehend, Jeff, how powerful Senator Shelby was. 36 years in the Senate. His last decade, he was chairman of the Senate Appropriations Committee. So Senator Shelby brought the Space Command. He got the funding for the whole Space Command concept out of Washington. Hundreds of millions of dollars. There was no Space Command. So it was going to Huntsville all along. It was going to Huntsville under Trump's first administration, and it was already designated to go to Huntsville because Shelby got the money for it. He said, I'm going to Dallas, going to Huntsville, Alabama. And so during the Biden administration, through pure politics, they moved that thing out of Huntsville. People realized it was in Huntsville first.
Yes.
I mean, so, you know, Huntsville was supposed to be. So the other side of that is that when Shelby got it here and put it in Huntsville, and Trump acquiesced to that and went along with it, but Biden them uses a political football to put that thing out there in Colorado for just totally brazen political move. Now that's not something you ought to play politics with, because, you know, space is not a frivolous, fun thing to just let's just spend money and go out in space. That is our next future for defense in this country. And so that's going to be the greatest thing. I know Huntsville has grown exponentially, but the Space Command is going to be where the future is for the aerospace defense.
Steve, we're out of time. We could talk for another 15 to 20 minutes. We always could. We appreciate your insight as always, and I'm sure we'll have you on more as this political season kicks up and we enter into our last session here in this 60-something-year-old state house here in Montgomery. Steve, I appreciate your time. And we'll be right back.
You can watch past episodes of Capitol Journal online anytime at Alabama Public Television's website, aptv.org. Click on the Online Video tab on the main page. You can also connect with Capitol Journal and link to past episodes on Capitol Journal's Facebook page.
And that's all for this week's edition of Capitol Journal. Remember, you can follow us on social media and watch full episodes anytime on YouTube. Todd Stacy will be back in this chair next week. Until then, for all of us here at Capitol Journal, I'm Jeff Sanders. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.